What's up, YouTube? This is Vulturous85 here. The hot card that's getting a lot of controversy right now in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, of course, Shadow of the Six Samurai Shien. And a lot of people have been really outspoken about the card, and of course we still don't have an unconfirmed effect for it still. And I guess I would just kind of want to give my opinion on it. And the way I'm kind of disappointed at a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community about the talk that's been going on about this card. I mean, it is a decent card. I'm not going to say it's broken or I absolutely love it or something like that. I'm very much going to give the card a try when it comes out. I'm definitely going to play test it and everything, but a lot of people are just going out and just automatically just bashing the card for not being just absolutely broken like a whole lot of people want. And you know, what's really bad about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community now is that unless a new card comes out and it's just absolutely 100% at first glance broken or something like that, people just absolutely talk shit about it. You know, I know a lot of people were hoping that this thing would have some kind of a negation effect like LSS Shien does, and, you know, have just another facet of negation, like an effect negation or a summon negation or something shit like that. Now, you think about it, like, yes, that would be an awesome effect, and it would give samurais a lot of power, but the question is, would it give samurais too much power? And we know what happens when you give something like samurais, which is a very, very competitive, it's very fast, and it's a very, very ruthless deck. We know what happens when you give it too much power. It goes back to YCS Charlotte 2 years ago where we had 3 Shiens in play. I think we had 2 Gateways in play, and the deck hadn't really been hit or anything. It was just a pure unrestrained deck. And going up against 3 Shiens and 2 Shiens in one turn, oh my god, that was an absolute nightmare back in those format days. And I know people nowadays, they don't want that to come back. So why in the hell would you ever want an effect like that on a deck that is as fast as Samurais? You have to be absolutely out of your mind to want that. Now, since we don't have a negation effect, we have an effect that pumps up monsters' attacks. Now, we don't know which ones you can target, and we don't know what they're going to go up to. Those are still unconfirmed. However, the fact that you can do that and you activate it during other players' damage step, that gives this card a lot of power, and it makes it pretty scary. Not only does it make it scary, it's like, you know, if let's say we go on the lower end and it can only control 6 samurais with an attack of less than 2,000. And then it brings their attacks up to 2,000. That is still, excuse me, a pretty major fluctuation in attacks. Take, for instance, on the low end of it, Kizan. So it's going to boost its attack up to 2,000 with that. We also have to take an effect that Kizan is going to get its own power up if it has another 6 samurai on board, because you're already going to have to take into effect that Kizan's going to be on the same field as Shadow. Shadow is going to count into its pump. So if you have another samurai on board, let's say a Kigeki, then your Kizan's going to gain its pump. So Kizan's going to become a 2,300 beater. Now let's go on the other end of the spectrum and talk about Kigeki. Now this is where Shadow can be very, very scary. So let's say your opponent attacks your Kigeki, and first of all, Shadow is going to raise that samurai's original attack to 2,000. Let's say it's a 2,000 cap on it. So Kigeki is going to go to 2,000. Kigeki is then going to get its own pump by its own effect, which means that it's going to become a 3,500 beater. A 3-star 3,500. That is some scary bullshit right there. And it's something that you're not going to be able to negate. Because, I mean, once Once you go in the damage step, you activate Shadow's effect. If your opponent doesn't have... Well, at that point, they're not going to be able to do a Valor. They're not going to be able to do a Fiendish Chain. They're not going to be able to stop it. This thing is going to run over anything, unless, you know, it just gets lanced or your opponent chalices it or something like that. Even then with Chalice, your opponent is still going to be hitting into a... let's see, Chalice pumps by 400, I believe. So this is still going to be 21 on if the Shadow gets chaliced. So, I mean, even with that, it's going to be a very, very scary combination of effects going off. Not to mention that this card, Keyzon, is going to become more and more important for 6 Samurais, because we know that this card is so splashable and just so easy to get out. It's really, really, it's a heinous card. Really, I mean, literally, all you have to have is another 6 Samurai on board, and he just comes out and says, hey, you know. He doesn't have any restrictions. He's just a free 4-star. It's the same thing as Bubble Man, except Keyzon is better than Bubble Man. There's no way to really go around it. You know, and of course, we have to take other cards into consideration. What is Shadow going to do with asceticism in play? You know, your asceticism pretty much can target any monster in the entire 6 Samurai deck and make easy synchros and easy exceeds. Asceticism plus Keyzon equals Zanji and Keyzon on board, which makes Shadow. It's going to be an extremely, extremely easy exceed to bring out. And I was talking to a guy earlier today about, you know, even if, since the Shadow's effect is unconfirmed, I still had to put it into mind as like, what if you have Shien and you have Shadow on board first turn? Which is very, very easy because Samurai still have access to this card. Okay? So let's say they draw this in first hand, and they go off and have Shien and Shadow right next to each other. Okay? How much is your opponent going to have to go through to get both of those monsters off board? Okay? Now, take into account that we still don't know what, how high Shadow is going to target as far as the attack pump, and we don't know which monsters it can target for the effect. So let's go on the high end. Let's say that if the monster is less than 3,000, you can target it. Okay, so let's have Utopia stand in for Shadow, because I want to talk about Utopia later on in a few seconds. So I pretty much posed up the questions like, what if you have Shien and Shadow on the same field? Shadow will be able to target Shien, and then Shadow can target itself because it's a 6 Samurai monster. How much are you going to have to burn out of your opening hand to get rid of these? And he had no answer to me, you know. Pretty much the only thing that can burn through this is Inzectors. And the Season 6 Samurai player will have maxed out Effect Failures, maxed out Fiendish Chains, because the deck absolutely has to run them. And, you know, with 6 effect negation cards in deck, there should be no reason for Samurais not to have at least one Valor first turn. Now, he also posed the question of why would you play Shadow over Utopia? I told him very simply that Shadow is the very opposite of Utopia. As in, you attack one of my monsters, their monster's dead because of Shadow. That's the difference. Utopia protects you, Shadow kills them. That's plain and simple. So, that's just how I feel about the card. Comment, tell me what you think about it. And, yeah, when we get a confirmed effect, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. And talk about the playing style that Samurais will take on after that. So, this is Vulturous85. Over and out.